And just like that, it's another Sunday, which means another new live stream. This time I am joined by Ben Kahn. We're going to be talking about Mr. Muffins, all things indie comics. Ben, thanks so much for hanging out with me here on this episode of Longbox Punk.
Oh my God, thank you so much for having me. Very happy to be here and talk some comics.
Excellent, man. Well, we're going to get into Mr. Muffins and why corgi really are the most adorable dog that's out there.
They're so cute.
They're so adorable. I have a mini schnauzer. And after I read Mr. Muffins, I looked at my schnauzer and I was like, why don't you have that cute of a butt? Like, why can't you save the galaxy? And he just...
The schnauzer's got to get on the squats. He's got to get on that corgi squat game.
So we're going to talk all sorts of fun stuff with Mr. Muffins. We're going to get into music and all the things. But first, I want to know your origin story. Like, how did you get into comics and how did you start writing?
Oh my, I started making comics at 15.
Wow.
When I started, making a Kingdom Hearts sprite comic that I would post on Mega Man for various forums. Back in the posting images to Photo Bucket and then posting links in forum threads. That's how far back I go. Which already compared to the world of webtoons, like my webcomic experience is like someone from like the Silver Age being like, let me tell you how it was.
Yeah, we had chat rooms.
$5 a panel for Miss Marvel. Mary Marvel. Just a completely different world and landscape. So that was my, issue 0. And then, I really fell in love with comics in college. There was a comic shop just a block off my college campus in Philadelphia, where I just started diving really big into comics. A ton of Vertigo, a lot of what was kind of going on, a lot of Jeff Johns' Green Lantern, Grant Morrison's Batman and Robin were kind of what made me, kind of a classic Wednesday warrior, regular reader. And I, started developing what we became my kind of first graphic novel, this kind of a superhero comedy, Shaman, about the necromancer who brings back all the dead heroes and villains when they all inevitably need to come back.
That's awesome.
So that was a fun little meta urban fantasy. And then I just kept going, it just kept, I love comics, love stories, love getting pick new influences and genres to work with. So, just kept going, worked. And, the artist who I worked with on that first book, Shaman, Bruno Hidalgo, we collaborated again on Heavenly Blues for Scout Comics and Griffin for Massive Comics. Heavenly Blues is a heist story across heaven and hell, while Griffin is this crazy anti-fascist space opera.
Awesome. So it's right up my alley.
Oh yeah. So I'll have to send you that. No, Griffin from Griffin Galaxy's Most Wanted from Massive Comics was a 3-issue miniseries we did in 2023. Cool. So that was a lot of fun to do. And I worked on and just kept going, Renegade Rule with my co-writer Rachel Silverstein and artist Sam Beck, which is a graphic novel we did at Dark Horse, which got nominated for a GLAAD Award, which was super awesome for our book, just about a bunch of disaster gamer gays just stumbling their way to the championship. The deepest issue we explored was, boy, explosions are cool. But I always appreciate the nomination.
Yeah.
That is part of my theory for just storytelling and representation, is that sometimes it means getting to see yourself in utterly frivolous fluff action comedy nonsense.
Yeah. Sometimes we need that comedic nonsense, though. Like, I appreciate tackling deep topics, but also like sometimes I just want a fun, like nothing deep, just surface level ridiculous action flick.
That one's about an esports team in a near future with VR gaming, competing to become national champions. And, that one was just, again, all of these are just taking a lot of what I love and putting and combining influences and putting new spins on things. So this was, a big influence by a lot of my love for like sports stories and sports anime. Stuff like Mighty Ducks, Bring It On,
Yeah.
Dodgeball, Haikyuu, Ice Shield 21. And so being able to take that kind of just love for sports stories and marrying it with a story that really more than anything else, what we wanted to put front and center, especially working with my friend Rachel on this, was a story about queer friendships.
Mm.
So that was the primary thing, was celebrating a group of queer friends on this crazy adventure. And yeah, Renegade Rule was a lot of fun, and you can still find that in a ton of bookstores, in libraries, and that led to just getting to work on a whole bunch of cool projects. I worked with Dark Horse and Ubisoft on the comic book tie-in to their Greek mythology game, Immortals Phoenix Rising.
That's awesome.
Which was great because I absolutely fucking loved Greek mythology growing up, so I had a lot of fun there.
Yeah.
That led to working again with Ubisoft reached out, and I got to work with Adi Shankar, who is just this brilliant creator. And we worked together developing a manga prequel for the Captain Laserhawk Netflix series.
Wow.
Which is amazing. Again, I got the call. They reached out. They're like, we want to do 1980s sci-fi 80s gay mad love. Would you be interested in writing that story? I'm like, say less. I'm in.
Right. That's cool. So you've mentioned a ton of different publishers that you've worked with. Like, does your work on one end up opening the door for the next? Like, how have you worked with so many?
So that can definitely, one can definitely absolutely lead to the next. Stuff like, again, I put out Shaman and was going around to a lot of shows, and that got Scout interested in what I was going to be making next. And that led to that doing Heavenly Blues with them. I did Renegade Rule with Dark Horse, and that led to working with both Dark Horse again, and then introducing Ubisoft on Immortals Phoenix Rising. And then that led to working with Ubisoft and Tokyo Pop on Captain Laserhawk. So hopefully I have been polite, been good at taking notes, and gotten my scripts in on time. And they will keep giving me projects because I really, really, really like writing comics, and I want to keep doing it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And like, I'm sure the experience of working with all of those different editors was probably like learning experiences each time, right?
Definitely, because it's always different, especially, the editorial process when you're working on a more creator-owned story versus a work-for-hire franchise story where, it's more about like, one is more, I think, what people would more consider an editor in a literary editor sense, where it's just more like, is the scene working? Is the character, where it's more working with the writer to be like, what is your vision and how are we best in like executing on that vision and that themes you have. Whereas, like if it's work for hire, like, like I recently did a Monster High one-shot issue with IDW, and those aren't your toys.
Yeah.
They are graciously lending you their toys, but they are not yours. So don't go fucking breaking them because they're not yours.
Right. That's an interesting distinction too, with working with like your own characters versus borrowing someone else's toys. That's such a good metaphor for that. Like, how do you enjoy both aspects of it? Like, are you just happy to be writing the comics, or are you like, I kind of want to stick with my creator owned stuff and my
The biggest
OCs?
thing is I'm just happy to be writing comics.
Cool.
And look, there is an element of, I want to I'm Madcap. I'm not one of those people who just wants to write mystery novel. Those are just wants one genre and that's it. Like I'm I want I'm a Pokemon kid. I gotta catch them all. I want to write them all. Like every time I see a thing, I'm like, oh, that's such a fucking cool thing. I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like it's like they're all just like tools. I'm like, oh, let me file that away to use later. So much of it is just love of writing. Like, being able to watch Annie Hall, the fucking Woody Allen, Diane Keaton romantic comedy.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where it's a flashback to like earlier in Woody's life, but it's not just a scene. It like the memory plays out. Maybe there's a voiceover. It's like there's present day Woody and Diane Keaton walking around like future ghosts, just like watching the scene, physically there, watching the scene, commenting on it. And I watched that movie in college and went, that's a great fucking technique, like for doing a flashback. I love this concept. I need to remember this. One day I'm going to get to use this for something. Fast forward and it's like, oh, I'm doing this cyberpunk drama about revealing how abusive a relationship was. Fuck, do I have the flashback storytelling like device that's perfect for this?
That's how do you keep track of like, so for me, I come up with those ideas, like I have random ideas or things that I'll see that are done really well. And I'm like, I need to remember that. And so, but if I don't write it down immediately, I forget. How do you keep track of all that stuff?
Crazy person. I made Heavenly Blues. I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna have this idea where we're like each of the 5 thieves characters, they're each gonna like their outfits are gonna incorporate a main color, and their caption boxes are gonna be that color, and their flashbacks are gonna be overlaid with that color.
That's cool.
Where I got that idea from the Marvel Netflix shows where they were like, everything Daredevil is red, everything Luke Cage is yellow. Yeah. I'm like, this is good brand marketing. This is good. Heavenly Blues, there's a flashback structure like involved where you find where in each of the first 5 issues we reveal how each of the 5 main characters died and how that informs who they are like in the afterlife where the story takes place. That's from Lost. That's because I fucking love the flashbacks from Lost.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a lot of Lost. In Renegade Rule, one of the 4 main girls is Tanya LaFleur. LaFleur is Sawyer's alias when he's undercover in the Dharma Initiative. That's where I got that name from. It's a very roundabout Lost reference.
I see. I'm a sucker for that type of like if you hide a bunch of Easter egg type stuff like that, I love finding those things out. So turning then to Mr. Muffins, for those that don't know, give me like the elevator pitch and then let's kind of deconstruct as much of it as you want to get into.
Yes. Oh, let's dive 4 paws into Mr. Muffins. Mr. Muffins is the story of Ruben Mahmoud, an 11-year-old slacker who just wants to get away from his homework and all the practices and trainings and family obligations his mother has signed him up for, and has have a day off with his best friend and pet corgi, Mr. Muffins, until an alien crash lands and tells him that the cosmic chosen one, the spirit of light destined to save the universe, is his pet corgi. So now this unlikely trio is going to venture off into the stars to defeat an evil alien armada and save the universe. One belly rub and laser blast at a time.
I love the mouth lasers. Like I love those. And especially like the huge splash page where Mr. Muffins is shooting the blast up at like the Karnak spaceship.
Oh, one of my favorite pages. Just the pure spectacle of this tiny little like teddy bear of a doggy launching a full Super Saiyan Goku Kamehameha.
So good.
And I'm a millennial. I'm a millennial kid. I grew up on fucking I'm on fire and my laser meme. So of course it's coming out of the mouth.
Now, the tribute, speaking of Goku, the tribute in the book is to Akira Toriyama. And so, of course, like reading that dedication, I was immediately like antenna up because I'm a huge Dragon Ball fan. And like anytime there was the laser blast beams smashing together, I was like, ooh, which arc of the Saiyans is this like, is this, Gohan Super Saiyan 2 against Cell? Is this like Frieza and Goku smashing their power waves together? Is this Vegeta and Goku? And then when we get the giant mech corgi and Mr. Muffins transforms into the giant, it was like these are almost like the great apes battling together. I'm curious, like, was I just reading too much into that for Dragon Ball Z, or was that
No,
like
if
a big
anything,
influence?
you weren't reading enough into the Dragon Ball Z influence.
Perfect.
No, and so no, yeah, so we dedicated the book to the memory of Akira Toriyama. He passed away when we were pretty much just kind of wrapping up production, figuring out, the like pretty much like I think like George was maybe working on like the last colors, or we had even just wrapped up the colors when he passed. And it hit, like, honestly, like, it, even as far as like celebrity deaths go, like it hit me maybe the most of any celebrity death.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very much at that age, when my whole conception of storytelling, like, there's before I knew what Dragon Ball and Final Fantasy were, and then there's after I knew what Dragon Ball and Final Fantasy were.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, so Dragon Ball Z, had a huge influence on just my creative journey, had a huge impact on Giorgio. And this book in particular, yeah, is just dripping with that Dragon Ball. We just tried to put that Dragon Ball spirit of fun and adventure and action. I mean, the beam struggles, the golden auras, the big giant the big giant transformations. Yeah, it's very much Dragon Ball like influence. I mean, the original idea, the first thing that just popped into my head on my 30-minute walk to Chinatown, where my old job used to be, and I had 30 minutes to just daydream on my walk. That first image that popped in my head was like, what if like big Star Wars space battle, but instead of X-Wing, it's a corgi.
I love that that's what your brain went to.
like how'd you come up with that idea? I'm like literally just that image popped into my head. I'm like, what if we did like Goku space fight, but cute doggy instead?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, that's a cute image. And then I told that to enough people who are like, that sounds really fun. I would read a book about that. And I then go like, oh, shit, sure, okay, I guess I can figure this out.
Yeah. So it started with the space blast scene, and then you crafted the entire story around that.
Yeah. So when people are like, yeah, so when it's like, why a corgi? It's like, there was never a single millisecond of this project where it wasn't a corgi.
That's awesome.
From the millisecond that the first image popped into my brain, it was like, this Star Wars would be really funny if it was a corgi that blew up the Death Star instead.
But you don't have a corgi, do you? You have a cat.
I have a cat. I have a little kitty. He is orange and white and the size of a corgi, but he is he. I grew up with dogs. I grew up with a cockapoo named Renegade. Just this big gluttonous black hole on 4 legs. So I definitely had that, and I got him when I was 10 and Ruben's 11. So I definitely had that kind of, growing up with the childhood dog, him being the best bud, and and I'd gotten Blargy about a year before I started work on Mr. Muffins, and he was my first pet as an adult that I got, and I love Renegade, but my mom took care of vets and getting him his food and feeding him and walks and yada, yada, yada. Blargy, me and my partner, this is our first pet as adults. Like, this was our little guy to take care of and make sure he was doing okay. And it really hammered home that, a pet is responsibility, that these little cats and dogs put so much faith in us, rely on us for so much, and that's a responsibility, and we owe it to them to give it our all. And Ruben's at that age in the book. He's 11. He's kind of at that age where he still feels very much purely like a kid, but responsibilities are starting to be expected of him. And the one responsibility he kind of instinctively understands is that he's got to be there for Mr. Muffins. And so that very much kind of becomes the lens through which he grows up over the course of the book.
Yeah, and I did notice that some of the things that his mother was getting after him with the family, with the homework and the birthday party and all of those things, he then was saying later in the book, and it was like, oh, there's that growth. And like, it's very clear that he's, understanding like there's a lot more to life than just avoiding homework. And like, I just thought that was a beautiful message, because he and Mr. Muffins really do have that bond. Like, I grew up having cats. I'm allergic to dogs. And so now I naturally have a dog now that I'm married. Naturally. But like, I totally get the first pet that we had as an adult. Like, we had our house, we got married, we ended up getting a guinea pig, and like, as unconventional of it is to say, like, I loved that guinea pig,
of course,
and like, we had him for 7.5 years, and like, we went through so many ups and downs because of it. And so, but like, that was our first pet, and like, it's there,
and you want to give that guinea pig the world, I bet. Everything it could ever want.
Yeah. So like, I love the, I would have said before that guinea pig, like, I don't understand the like deep connection with pets. Like, I had cats, but they were cats. Like, they were assholes and, treated humans like, they wanted us around only when they were hungry. And other than that, they did their thing. They lived their life and they slept. And that was my experience with my cats. And then
I'm looking around for my cat. He's in his little cubby behind me.
Yeah.
There he is. There. Let me try to. There he is.
I got it. Yeah, I see the ears.
Yep.
But yeah, so like, once I had our guinea pig was Barry Allen, because we both loved The Flash.
Oh, I love
that. We called him Barry. And like, once I had him, it was like, I get it. Like, all the people that are like, oh, my family, my dog. And I was just like, oh yeah, good for you. But now I'm like, yeah, but my guinea pig.
Yeah.
And now we've got a dog too. And it's like, that connection is real. And so seeing Ruben travel across the galaxy just to be there for Mr. Muffins, and like the couple scenes where even though Mr. Muffins is the spirit of light, it's Ruben that's saving him. Like, it just was a very sweet relationship that I loved seeing play out.
Thank you. I'm so glad that all came through, because that really was the goal, was that, it's Mr. Muffins is the chosen one, but he is also just a normal corgi who is mostly motivated by butt scratches and getting treats.
Yeah.
That was one thing I decided very early on, was that Mr. Muffins is not going to be a talking corgi. Of all the powers he has, not a single one of them is going to increase his intelligence.
And the scenes where like he's barking, and I think it was the spirit of light that's like barking back, and they're having this full dog conversation. I was like, that's perfect.
Yeah. That was another one. That was one of those jokes that like I just had to sit on for so long until I got to write it in the script.
That's great.
Just this I know, and that was very much inspired to do stuff like that, was very much inspired by this kind of like it's very much something like Avatar Legend of Korra. You're like journey into the center of the mind. You're talking, how many, Luke Skywalker talking to Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Like, that was a big one. Like, again, and so I thought, like, Well, if Luke would talk in barks, then Obi-Wan would need to talk back in barks.
Yeah.
That was one of those my favorite jokes because once it's so silly, but there's a logic to it that's so rock solid.
Yeah, it just makes sense.
Like, oh, of course the cosmic spirit of light would communicate in the language of the host she chose.
Yeah. Yeah, it made
Well,
perfect sense to me.
why would you speak in English to a corgi? She would speak in corgi to a corgi.
And speaking of languages, there's a ton of different languages, like alien languages that are used in this book. How did you come up with that? Or was that something that like you worked with Giorgio on to like figure out what those languages were going to be and what they looked like?
So definitely credit to the letterer, definitely on our letterer on the project, who definitely, in the script, it's just, parentheses, alien text. And so definitely credit to letterer for making that such authentic feeling alien fun. But definitely a part of it was me just wanting to play around with and have some fun with that universal translator that you see so often in science fiction.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. You need it. Science fiction would be like unbearable without like
It'd be awful.
But I did want to have some fun with it. This idea where it's like, well, a translator can't tell you what idioms mean.
Yeah.
Like you're going to have to there's going to be context clues you're going to have to guess at, even if you know the language, or stuff where it's like, well, how does the translator know which language to go when it just lands on a new planet? We have so many on Earth.
Yeah.
So
I did love that figuring out of like this. No, that's not it. No, that's not it. No, that's not it.
So that was just me, watching way too much, like a ton of DS9 and TNG and going like, this is like, I totally get why you need this for absolute narrative convenience, but there would be bugs.
Yeah.
We all know Google Translate isn't 100% accurate. Like, we know there's going to be some issues.
Yeah.
So, because that's just where so much of my favorite comedy comes from is that intersection of fantastical meeting mundane.
Yeah.
Where it's either these fantastical concepts needing to operate in the mundane or revealing and exploring the mundane realities that would need to go into a fantastical thing happening.
Yeah.
Like what we do in the shadows thrives in that. That's one of my favorite shows. But yeah.
That's great.
I love watching a movie that makes me go like, well, okay, I have questions. Or there's this or I just know that there's setup to a scene I wish I could have seen. Like one of my favorite examples in John Wick, after Perkins has betrayed the assassin community and Winston has 4 assassins come out of Central Park in perfect unison and shoot her, and then they all walk back into the shadows in equally perfect unison.
Yeah.
And I watched that and I went, okay, so they had to rehearse that. That's practiced. There's no way they just got that right the first time.
Yeah.
I want to see that rehearsal.
That'd be so fun. 4 just deadly assassins. Okay, so we all need to count to 5 simultaneously so that we step out at the same time and return at the same time.
That's what I want to see. I want to see the guy with the measuring tape. They're figuring out they're and 1 2 step, 1 2 step.
You can see them all just football huddle, okay, so here's what we're gonna do.
They're all facing each other, firing guns, making sure nobody hits anybody else.
Yeah.
That's the material. That's the area where I'm I want to see this. I want that scene that isn't explored. That's what I want to show.
That's awesome. And speaking of things that you showed that the comedy and the mundane. So as the invading alien Hakar land on Earth and then Mr. Muffin gets away and they're okay, well, I guess we gotta call back to the homeworld and let them know that we didn't do it. And so they call, and you've got like the answering machine, like, thank you for calling the Hikar communal. Press 1 if you've succeeded and are ready for your flowers. Press 2 if you messed up and need execution.
Why would the evil alien armada not also have like an oppressive bureaucracy for even those within it?
It was, and like that was my favorite running bit through the whole book. And I mentioned it before we came on, but like seeing them make the decision that they did and then like trying to fit in.
I always love the idea of them like, well, I have fucked up so bad that I guess I just quit. I don't need to come back in to be fired. I'm just gonna go now and never come back.
Yeah.
So I love that. And yeah, just that I love the idea of these big scary aliens with these jagged like dinosaur plate looking faces just being like, well, fuck, I guess I gotta get a job at Starbucks now.
Do you want whip on the latte? That's so funny.
Yeah, like, I had a lot of fun just the idea of like, like once we're like, well, I just gotta find survival, and then it's like, and I'm starting to find my passion here on this planet.
Yeah.
And so so that was just the end. Like the fact that we end on that, that's one of our ending jokes. Just a big escalation of like, fuck it, the alien that wanted to take over through conquering is now like, you know what? I legitimately want to improve things through the democratic system.
Yeah, running for mayor.
Because that's the thing. Alien stuck on Earth, like evil alien running for mayor, funny. Yeah. Evil alien running for mayor on a legitimately good platform of sensible reform and increased safety measures, way funnier.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's
2 days ago. That's way funnier to me if the alien is like legitimately good. He's like, I have good ideas for local governance.
Instead of just this infernal conquest.
Yeah, it's like
taking over your planet. No, we're gonna make it better.
I came for conquest, but now I want to open local jazz festival.
So good. It's so much fun. Like, what was working with Giorgio like on this project? Like, how much of the script was already done versus like what was that collaboration like?
So Giorgio came on very early on. Giorgio came on when I was like, I have this idea and I'm looking to put together like 5 to 8 pages, see if we can't get a publisher interested. Our original pitch, because I was in my 20s and could only see things through my view of like, oh yeah, Ruben will be like a guy, new to the workforce, underappreciated, overworked. We gave it to Oni. Oni was like, make this a child. I was like, yeah, no, obviously. Why did I not make it a child to start? You're way right. Yeah, holy shit, duh. We did. We made Ruben 11. They were like, this is way better. We're like, we know. Thank you. You're right.
Thanks.
Thank you. And so we were off to the races. And so what that did mean was that I was able to go like in the script writing process. I was able to like from page 1 write and develop the plot and write the story, knowing it would be in Giorgio's art style, like being able to see Giorgio's art in my head, and that can be such a big part of it right there. Yeah. But also it was making sure Giorgio was like getting all the scripts, getting to put his input in, which ideas he was most excited about, how he wanted like some of the action to be structured, and even having his art in mind while writing it, he still blew me away on like every page. Yeah. Like every big expression I wrote in the script, he made it bigger. Every time I wrote Mr. Muffins to be cute, he made him cuter. Mm-hmm. Every big action scene was more exciting than like I planned. Like, God, like those lasers, like the way he draws those big giant laser blasts, like you did the light and impact of them. Like he just did so good. And like and these alien worlds that he just filled the backgrounds, filled the pages. I mean, you get to planet Voltaria, the main location for most of the acts 2 and 3, and it has like these pink skies and these forests of giant multicolored mushrooms. None of that was in the script. The script just said alien world.
That's awesome.
All of that is Giorgio and Giorgio's imagination.
That's very cool. Yeah, I love that. I mean, and even with that alien landscape, like it still feels very real. Like it wasn't too alien, that it wasn't like, oh no, that's how that would look for sure.
Yeah. Well, and again, credit to it. I definitely love the influences he put in. Like it wasn't just like I'm drawing some, like Giorgio definitely came to these major character designs with the mindset not that these were not concepts just springing out of nowhere, that like evolution led to these things. So yeah, you see a planet where it's like, oh yeah, why wouldn't there be a planet where instead of trees, tree-sized mushrooms evolved?
Yeah,
sure, like that makes total sense. Our main alien protagonist, Lieutenant Cassara, we went through so many designs, and we ended up circling back to Giorgio's original idea in the end, which was this axolotl influence design.
nailed
this
it.
very amphibious axolotl salamander girl, which I'm like, yes, you don't see that. I love like that particular influence.
Yeah.
The way and the way Giorgio, especially with the Hakar, their biology and their technology kind of went hand in hand. He kind of gave me these very craggy, jagged, like sharp, angular bodies and faces, and that reflected in all their ships and technologies with these very jagged, sharp, angular, especially the fire ships. Like, I think what it was very much this kind of like bird skull, like meets spaceship influence to the Hakar, and just the way he really thought about how their evolution and their design would inform like their technology. Just, yeah, Giorgio, I can't say enough about Giorgio's creativity in bringing these characters in the world to life.
That's cool. I was going to ask about like how the difference between like the Hakar and then Kasara's worlds and like all of that stuff. But that's super cool that like he put that much into, well, if the Hakar are angular, then everything else about them is going to be angular and that sharp, jagged too. Because it definitely comes through, and it makes it very easy as the reader to be like, oh, that's sharp and edgy and dark, that's the bad guy, and that's rounded and soft and nice looking, that's the good. Like,
yes,
that's very helpful.
Yeah, like it might be a little simple, but again, it works for very easily distinguishing them on the page, and it is a book for for kids to help be like, especially in these big fight scenes. I mean, it always annoys me when it is when I watch something like Top Gun. No, I'm not going to be bad mouthing Top Gun. Top Gun's phenomenal movies, but there are times where in some of them, like, wait, which I can't tell which helicopter is which fighter jet is which, like, which plane am I following? So I always like liked how Giorgio gave him such distinct designs, in shape, in color, and feel.
Yep. Yeah, and to me, like going back to the world feeling real, like that feels very real to me. Like, why with a Hakar, who are the jagged, sharp, darker colored characters, like why would they have a bright, rounded, soft ship like Kasar does? Like that wouldn't make sense. But putting them in similar ships, then suddenly it's like, oh yeah, of course that's them. Like, I don't even have to think about it because I believe it.
And you can't even say it's unrealistic, just because it hasn't worked in real life. If aliens got a hold of our media, they'd be like, oh, humans spend so much of their time making human-shaped robots and machines for them to go around in.
Yeah.
Like, just based on their media, I'm assuming they spend a lot of time in big metal versions of themselves.
Mm-hmm. Have yet to step foot in a big metal version of myself. Kind of disappointing that it's 2025 and I haven't had that experience yet.
Right?
We don't have hoverboards. We don't have flying cars. Like, come on, society, figure it out. I need all of those sci-fi things to happen in
No,
my
all
life.
we have are plagiarism machines and money that's bad for the environment.
It's great. Yeah, super,
Fucking nailed it.
super good.
At
So
least we did get crazy good vaccine, like crazy RNA vaccines out of it.
it's true.
That's,
Our
that's
our
the one.
science is
That's the
booming.
one thing science. That's the one cool thing we've got, and I am holding on to it for dear life.
So something, man, what a transition. Something that I hold on to dearly is music. And depending on my mood, the music changes. Like, what type of music do you think would be playing in the spaceship with Ruben and Corgi and Mr. Muffins and Kasara as they're returning back to Earth, having successfully vanquished the evildoers?
I mean, I don't want to say "Who Let the Dogs Out" by Baha Man,
But you do. You kind of do, though.
and I kind of do. I mean, what song they'd be like playing? I'm worried to the degree that Ruben might just be playing the Paw Patrol theme, ironically. I'll say I can tell you some songs I listen to a lot while writing this.
Perfect.
Because honestly, my music tastes do tend to change a lot depending on what I'm writing, and music is definitely a big part of my writing process. So the biggest one that, especially trying to capture, like listen to songs that just kind of have like the energy or the mood to just help me get in the right mindset. So the big one was honestly, and again, for a show called Long Box Punk, you might not respect these choices very much, and that's okay.
No, I've got a completely, I don't expect everyone to love the same thing that I love. Like that'd be ridiculous.
Well, I have some projects, again, like Heavenly Blues. I had a lot of punk songs in my rotation, but for Mr. Muffins, I had Sucker by Jonas Brothers.
Okay.
Always by Panama.
Okay.
Hands Open by Snow Patrol. Love is Mystical by the Cold War Kids, and Feel It Still by Portugal the Man.
Okay. Hey, I love Portugal the Man.
Yeah. And of course, Rock the Dragon from the Dragon Ball Z dub.
Naturally.
Rock the Dragon, Dragon Ball Z guitar solo.
It's up there in like all-time cartoon theme songs.
Oh, hell yeah.
Rock the Dragon. Oh man. You just got me a hype. So coincidentally enough, you know the like the menu music of the Dragon Ball Z series for the DVDs, where it was like just that would get my guinea pig so hyped. Like I would put it in, and because I would put the DVD on, hit Marathon,
he's gonna go super guinea pig,
and like clean the house, whatever. But I noticed I was still cleaning, so I just left it. It went back to the menu, and I heard the Barry like doing like having zoomies, and just he would run around. I made this like bi-level retirement home for him that had a ramp that went to the separate levels and the water thing and a padded section for him to lay on. It was so bougie, but he was going crazy running around the lower section, and I could hear him like flipping his tunnel and all the stuff. And I came out and I was like, what the hell is going on? And then he would stop and like look at the TV, and then the music would restart and he would go back into it. And I was like, holy shit, he's going super guinea.
And just imagine if he'd heard the song when Goku goes Ultra Instinct for the first time.
Oh man, he would have lost his mind. I love that music can do that though. Because like he even had his favorite, like we watch wrestling, and he had his favorite wrestling theme songs that when they would come on,
he wrestler? Did J-Fig have a favorite wrestler?
He did.
Yay!
And it doesn't make any sense. He loved Randy Orton. Like as a guinea pig named after the Flash, he picks the slowest walking wrestler.
That is.
But his theme song would come on. Orton. Like, I hear voices in my head. And he would turn around and get to the corner where he could see the TV, and until his entrance was done. And then he would go back to laying under his tunnel again. And it was just like, this is insane. Like,
we found Randy Orton's biggest fan.
So, like, does your cat watch TV with you?
Sometimes, but like, I don't know. I'm not sure if there's anything he particularly likes.
Okay. I mean, he is a cat. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like they're just generally disinterested in humans.
Sometimes he just has to be on the couch because I'm forcing him to cuddle with me
Yeah.
and watch stuff. He likes Abbott Elementary, I think.
Okay.
He usually hops up on the couch with me when I got Abbott Elementary playing.
That's fun. So, okay, so Mr. Muffins is available. I've got the Simon and Schuster link in this episode
Yes,
description, so
and
it's super easy to find.
yes, and that link has links, all the major sites where you can pre-order it, or not pre-order it, just flat out order it. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million. If you go to your local bookstore and comic shop, they can definitely also order it for you, because it is always important to support our indie bookstores and local comic shops.
Yep. So what's next? Like, do you have your next project lined up? Are you working on something, or are you still in Mr. Muffins mode?
I am. There's definitely some stuff I am definitely excited for it to be announced, but can't talk about yet. But no, keep an eye out for Dashing School for Wayward Princes. It's about co-written by myself and Jeremy Whitley and drawn by sorry, I'm just I am having a complete little brain fart.
Perfect.
It is a story about a trans princess sent to a school to learn toxic masculinity, and it is co-written by me and Jeremy Whitley and drawn by Melissa Capriglione. So that is coming from Simon and Schuster. I think maybe towards the end of the year, so keep an eye out for that. But otherwise, I'd say if you haven't checked out Renegade Rule, maybe give that book a look. It is, again, bookstores and comic shops and online. There might be some news about it this year.
Ooh.
So might be a good idea to catch up if you haven't read it yet.
I love little teasers like that. So, okay, what's the best way that people can keep up with you?
Yes, so you can keep up with me on my website, benkahncomics.com. I'm on Instagram, benkahncomics. I'm most active, though, on Blue Sky, where I will just be self-promoting and making silly jokes in between everything else Blue Sky's got going on. So you can find me on Blue Sky at Ben Kahn Comics. And then I do a horror movie podcast, a weekly horror movie podcast called Progressively Horrified. That new episodes every Friday. Me, Jeremy Whitley, and Emily Martin get together every week with great guests to recap and review horror movies and analyze them through the lens of progressive politics.
That's a fascinating lens to look at horror through.
Yes, because anyone who says horror isn't political has no fucking idea what they're talking about. Horror is insanely political.
That's cool. And it's called, say the name of it again.
Progressively Horrified. And, Transistor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you do your podcast listening, we are there talking about spooky movies.
Awesome.
New episodes every Friday.
I love that. I'm definitely going to check that out because I love horror, but I don't think I've ever really thought about horror politically before. So
that is our whole jam.
Piqued interest.
We're right the ones going. It's like, hey, what are the political themes of Friday the 13th, Part 4? I'm kidding. We've never gone past the first one because that series is terrible.
It peaks and really should have stopped. I mean, I appreciate slashers, but to get like 74 movies of Friday the 13th or the Halloweens or like,
Yes.
and I say this with all love because I love Freddy, but like we don't need 17 Nightmare on Elm
That
Streets.
first Nightmare on Elm Street is so good, though. That
So
first
good.
one, oh, so good.
Yeah, I love, like, for me, Freddy is at his best when he's just super freaking weird.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
the weirder it gets, the more Freddy it is to me. So
Yes.
I like that's one of the few that I've actually watched every iteration
So
of.
again, see, as
But
slashers and scenes that I want to see, uh, the first Halloween movie, Michael Myers is like, he broke out of the mental hospital, and they're like, it's an hour and a half drive to the town he went to. I'm like, who taught Michael Myers to drive?
did he drive himself or did he hitchhike
Who
there?
gave Michael Myers driving classes, and where's that movie?
Could you imagine like 20 minutes of him trying to get out of neutral? I'm
Yes,
picturing with a
yeah.
stick shift.
Give me the scene where Michael Myers has to teach himself how to drive stick shift.
Yeah.
Like,
Stalling out and getting pissed in the parking lot.
it's a far enough drive. He had to stop for gas.
Yeah.
Did he get snacks? I want to see a whole movie that's just Michael Myers' road trip to the town in the first Halloween movie.
That's great. I would watch the shit out of that.
I am obsessed with the scenes that had to have happened, but we don't get shown.
Yeah. That's so good. Let me see. I know I wrote stuff down. Got it. You beat me to a lot of it. This has been a lot of fun, but I'm not done with you yet.
Okay.
I know
let's
it
do it.
seems like I am, but I'm not. There's two more things that I want to do. The first one, super easy. I'm going to take a screenshot. So we're going to pose, and then I'm going to use that as the YouTube thumbnail to live forever and ever and ever. So you get to show off how you want to be seen by folks, which is why I do it. I love that. Yeah. Let's go. 3, 2, 1. Great. The second one is sorry if this is a curveball. I like to turn over the end of the show to the creators that I have on because everybody has unique experiences that led them into comics, but we all have the same through line that comics are best. So, that in mind, if there's anything that you want somebody watching this or listening to this now or later or whatever to hear from you, this is the time. Totally open mic. It could be about why corgi are the best dog that are of breeds, or it could be, like the content doesn't matter so much as I just want you to have a space to be able to share anything that you might have that you want people to hear from you. The floor is
Okay.
yours.
Yes. I will say is that storytelling is fun and magical, and to appreciate it as the malleable art that it is, to take lessons from everything you enjoy and don't, and never stop working your own craft, and never ever stop chasing your creative bliss. Whatever you would love the most to work on, whatever you feel is most meaningful to bring into the world, always let that be your North Star for where to guide you. And at the end of the day, comics is best.
I love it, man. So well said. There's no better way to top that. So instead of me rambling on for forever, we're just going to end it. Hang tight after I end this. I got logistics stuff for you. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it, subscribing, liking, commenting, all the things that the YouTubers say, which I am not, so I'd never say them, but you should do them anyway. You know what they are. What's a good podcast without a good tagline? This is mine. Go do what's good for you, punks, and read some indie comics. We are out of here.